This is Swim, Success with Music. What up, music fam? This is Walt. This is Success with Music, Swim, the Swim Podcast. This is a podcast for singers, songwriters, beat makers, music students, everyone who is about the music life. We're here learning and getting better. And for those of you who listen on a regular basis, we appreciate it. And to make sure that you're hearing our episodes on a regular basis, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your content. Always, if you can, give us a review. That will help us to keep going. When we first started off our episodes a while back, over a year ago, we started off with music news. And today I wanted to jump back into some music-related news that I found out there in preparing for the show. Information that I think you will find very useful. And especially for those of you who are engaged in live performances and doing shows and gigs and stuff like that. And before we get into this article that I read recently, know that this episode is brought to you by the Swim Master Melody course. The Swim Master Melody course, it's an online course that will help you go deeper into creating melodies for songs. So if you're a songwriter, if you are a composer, the Swim Master Melody course is a phenomenal investment because we'll take you deep into the formula for successful songs. There are at least a dozen things that we cover in the Swim Master Melody course. Over an hour's worth of content. I think you will really enjoy it and you will love learning what we have to provide for you there. So check it out at our main website, successwithmusic.com. All right, so let's talk about this article that I read the other day. And again, I read it and I thought about those who are out there doing gigs and trying to, succeed in the live show environment, touring and things like that. And I was reading this article over on Yahoo, and I'll actually link to it in this episode's notes at the bottom here. So go ahead and go to episode 53 and you'll see a link to the story where you can actually read a bit more than I'm going to share here. But I wanted to touch on the highlights. So the point of this story, for those who are out there doing gigs and live shows and things like that, the writer of this particular article was mentioning that those who are succeeding in this modern era of music, those people, these artists are engaging in curated experiences. So in other words, what they're doing, these artists, these musicians, they are offering fans a different way to engage with the artist and with the music. Now, this is going way beyond like merch and responding to people like on social media, that type of thing. They're doing things like allowing fans to hop on stage with them at their shows, maybe do some karaoke with the artists. And maybe you've heard of artists going to do gigs at someone's home or a house party, that type of thing. That's kind of been around for a while. But if you're doing like a show at a fair or at some type of outdoor event, having the artist jump into, like a dunk tank, or holding some type of live competition with the audience. There's been instances where artists will have people nominate songs that will make it onto the EP or the album. So the point again of this article is just to give people different ideas about how to create curated experiences to where it's not just about listening to the music. It's not just about purchasing merch. It's really about that engagement, things that you really can't replicate online. So these curated experiences apparently is giving some of these artists a bit of an edge when it comes to engagement, fan engagement, and that love. And if you think about it, if you can get a fan that's a true fan, they will actually do a lot of your marketing for you. So it's an interesting read. It's a very short article. So check it out on our podcast page. Again, that's episode 53. But that's not the main topic of the show. I want to get to the main topic right now. Let's do it. All right, so today I wanted to have on a special music guest. And this guest is from Greece, and I'm going to introduce him in just a second. But before we do, know that we have thousands of listeners out there. So if you are an artist and you're looking for some more exposure, if you want to jump on and maybe provide some of your expertise, whether it be songwriting or producing or your creative process, we most certainly will entertain you participating in that. So by all means, feel free to send us a message by way of our website. That's successwithmusic.com. Make your pitch, and who knows, maybe you can be on like this artist today. But one of the reasons why we have artists on and have different guests on, we feel that it's very important to maybe hear the creative process of others or to get the viewpoint of others. We're all out here trying to grind it out in this music game, but just sometimes hearing maybe the same thing from a different vantage point or spoken in a different way will just give you some ideas or maybe spark some different ways of doing things, or may reconfirm that you're on the right track when it comes to your music and your creative process or acquiring fans, those type of things. So with that, I want to go ahead and jump into introducing our guest for today. Let's do it. All right, so we're back here, and I want to introduce, without any further ado, a gentleman by the name of Theo Nt. Theo Nt. And that's spelled Theo and the letters NT. So let me give you just a quick background on Theo, because this guy is like amazing. So I mentioned a few minutes ago that he is from Greece. He's recently dropped a debut album called The Mermaid. Now, in terms of genre, Theo really thrives in the area of alternative rock and the grunge scene. And the sweet part about Theo is that his vocals, man, they're just on point. And when I mean on point, I'm talking about covering 4 octaves as a vocalist. So that's pretty impressive, far beyond what I can do. So one of the things that's awesome about him, he's actually going back and grabbing some of those sounds from like back in the 90s, even stretching back into the 70s and creating this hybrid for a modern take on the rock genre. Very unique for today's music scene. Now, Theo, in terms of creation, he's probably like a lot of us in the audience where you're doing a lot of stuff. So in other words, he's composed, he's mixed, he's produced his new album. So he's kind of a jack of all trades when it comes to the overall sound of his project. And before we ask Theo a few questions, how about we just take a quick sample of what he can do? Check out this song called Embroidery. So if you want to check out more of this track, we're going to tell you how to do that in just a moment. But for right now, let's go ahead and talk to Theo. Hey, Theo Nt. Yo, man, I appreciate you joining the Swim team today and just making yourself available to speak with other artists out there about what you do and your creative process.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank you for having me here. Success with music is, it's really beautiful what you're doing, guys, and hope you can enjoy the podcast today.
So we just heard some of your music. I've listened to some of your music. Amazing content. Help me understand what is behind your creative process. Like, what drives what you do from the songwriting standpoint?
Thank you very much for your kind words about my music. Usually I try to write something on my acoustic guitar and then get on my laptop or on my desktop and try to get the beat of it in order to feel if it's right, So, but then I try to be a little complicated. Usually on the harmony, I like to just put some jazzy chords in it, Even I don't have, any distortion of the guitars. And I love synths as well. In this album, you don't hear any synths at all, but I love synths as well. I have music that are composed that I have keys and synths and all that. But I try, I think the rhythm, what the song is about, and the harmony, try to be simple first of all, and then try to implement that, especially when you write down the lyrics and you try to change the melody.
So yeah, man, I read a few accolades about your vocals earlier. Again, amazing texture, tone, technique. So how much of your sound is about the technology, like the editing and things like that? And then how much of what you do vocally is actually based on technique?
Thank you very much again for the kind words about my vocals as well. I think the sound, if you hear someone that can sing, even if you have the technology to use all the auto-tune and tuning techniques to get there, I think it sounds thin or it doesn't sound good at all, in any way. So I think it's more about doing your vocal warm-ups, doing your vocal stretches, try to sing as much as possible. So I think it's about vocal technique. And when it comes to recording, you do, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know. It depends on the singer on the day. You do vocal takes, and then you combine them in order to take, the super take. Is the popular technique that everybody uses, especially when the computers came in. Because in the old days, like we know, it was pain to do the editing. So I think it's about vocal technique, and it's about what you want to express in the song. So it has to do with the lyrics as well. But yes, if you can sing, it will not sound good at all, even if you just use like 1,000 plugins as inserts.
All right, so here's a big one, right? And I kind of alluded to it at the very beginning of the show with my news article from Yahoo. All musicians want to have dedicated, engaged fans. What do you do to engage your listeners?
I do a lot of things. I mostly read about how to promote your music, and other than that, I think I do many YouTube videos about vocal covers, about vocal warm-ups, vocal technique, music production tutorials as well, and songwriting tutorials. I'm gonna do a series with documenting my album. I use Instagram as well, where I just try to connect those two mediums. And of course, I post everything on Facebook. I think social media is the way to promote and engage your fans. I also always do include any streaming links like Spotify, which I think is the best streaming platform nowadays. I think that's it. Get traffic whatever you have in mind, and try to be simple and not just push the audience. Just try to pull them, but in a way that doesn't seem cheesy. Especially when you're an artist. Maybe might seem difficult, when you start, but after, if you do like 1, 2, 3, 4 times, just feel, better.
So I've read that you have an amazing live show. What have you learned about holding the attention of an audience? Is there some type of trick or some type of insight or some type of method that you use to keep people engaged at these live performances that you're involved in?
Yeah, my last show was amazing. To be honest, I really enjoyed it. I think I'm not the blah blah guy. I don't talk too much, and even if I talk, I just say